Mhm.
Haz drives to maximum power output.
Do we have a particular order that we're doing the cards in?
Transmitting signal in 5.
I think there's a couple that aren't on TV quite yet, so.
Transmitting signal down.
Most of them are not, unfortunately, I don't think.
Yeah.
Oh wait, hang on. There's more than I expected. The list is Rising Tide, Side Hustle, Top Down, IP Enforcement, Ant Hill, Silendra, KPI, Fly Swatter, Bakota Link, and Grid.
Yeah.
All right. Hello, everyone. It's that time of year again. It is Daily Casts. It's time to recap the scoops, the spoilers, the wonderful goodies we get from NSG. I should pause the music that's still playing. Okay, Jeff. One day we'll have a smooth transition in, but not today. As I learned when re-listening back through all of these, how I introduced 90% of these. I've got 3 wonderful guests today to talk about this Day Zero spoiler season, recapping the almost dozen cards I think we've had spoiled so far. Kat, I'll have you kind of introduce yourself first. Maybe make sure everyone knows who you are, how long you've been playing Netrunner. Maybe what your favorite faction archetype kind of thing is.
Hello, I'm Kat. I haven't been playing for that long. I've been playing since the Automata Initiative. I play mostly Corp, but my favorite runner is Issa. I've been playing a lot of Issa recently. I think my favorite playstyle is probably Trap and Ambush playstyle, even though it's bad. But I normally play NBN, so.
Oh, neat. Cool. Do you do it out of Proptovost, or do you do it in a different ID?
Prov is my favorite ID. I think
Okay.
it's terrible, but I think it's a really fun ID. I've been playing recently. I've been playing a little bit of Near Earth Hub kill trap decks without end of the line, no end of the line kill trap decks, and they're bad, but they're fun. So don't take them to a tournament, but play them on JNet.
Cool. Cranked, you want to introduce yourself? Tell us how long you've been playing and what your favorite archetype is.
Sure. My name is Cranked, pronouns he, him. I've been playing this game for entirely too long. I started playing in 2014 between Double Time and Honor and Profit, so I'm a dinosaur these days. My favorite card of all time is Museum of History, and I'm an absolute sicko. As far as my favorite archetypes, I firmly believe that all runners must die. So I will sit there and play linear kill decks until I am blue in the face. That being said, I have been an absolute ob enjoyer for the past, year plus or so, because turning my cards into other cards is a drug, and I can't stop chasing that dragon. It's just so much fun to shuffle your cardboard around. I don't know what it is, man.
Yeah, it's the fidget toy aspect just taken to the max or something. But yeah, it's quite something.
I mean, I love museums, so the idea of I get to play the ID that makes me shuffle my deck every turn, I'm in.
Yeah,
Bye.
Yeah. Very nice. And then Funky Man, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, I'm Funky Man. Some of you know me as Dan. I've been playing Netrunner for 2 or 3 years, give or take. And I love a lot of different styles. I would say I actually like scoring agendas behind ice. Call me crazy. But rush lists, mid-rangey stuff is a lot of fun. But my absolute favorite list of all time was World Tree Ari, talking about shuffling cardboard. Such a blast of a deck, so much fun. So I was slowly indoctrinated into the cult of Shaper bullshit. So here we are.
Wonderful. We claim another. All right. Well, I think, given that we have such a big set of cards to talk about, well, actually, I'm going to quickly say it's nice to see everyone who's tuned in. Code, Marvelous, Jamie, let's see, Perhelion, Cephalopod, Wentagon, Daria, Gorfax. Great to have you all here, and the other people that are surely watching. Please say hi, and feel free to throw comments on the chat. But we've got quite the set of cards. First up, we've got Rising Tide. This is a 1-cost, 1 MU program Icebreaker Factor. Its base strength is 1, and it has the text, this program gets +1 strength for each fractor in your heap. Interface 1 credit, break 1 barrier subroutine, 1 credit, +1 strength. The waters begin to roil, and bit by bit they swell. And 2 influence as well. Kat, any initial thoughts on this card?
It's Corroder too, but this time it's cooler. I like it a lot. I think this card it's the first card that they ever spoiled, as far as I'm aware. Except for the Sokka's World Champion card. I think that was first. But I think this card is extremely interesting as far as icebreakers go. I've always been a fan of Anarch Mulch, and just trashing through your deck. And also, I've always been a fan of running more breakers than are necessary. So stuff like Repeller, Revolver, disposable breakers. They mentioned this a bit in the post, but I think that Rising Tide is probably going to shine in those kind of decks as like an early game aggressive fractor. Something like Repeller, but that's a bit longer lasting. But the nice thing about it though is that if you keep it into the late game, it might still stick around because its strength will slowly be increasing. I think it'll be kind of difficult to make the strength increase like strong enough for it to outpace, extremely good like game factors like pressure spike and stuff like that. But I think that as it stands, I'm definitely going to try and make this work with disposable breakers and with Anarch mulch. We'll see what kind of pieces they get in the upcoming set, but already stuff like the Price, Lago Parnoa Shelter, all of those are great synergy. And I think that overall this is much more interesting than Corroder anyways. And I think it's a really cool learn to play card because already it opens all of these like deck building options to make its jankiness actually effective.
Yeah, I mean, you called out the synergy with the Price. That was like the first thing that came to my mind when I saw this. Of like, okay, what's the fastest way for me to fill my graveyard with fractors if I actually want to turn that text on? Though I'll be honest, I don't think you actually need to, at least in standard. I mean, my attention was grabbed at simply seeing the cost 1 in the corner and then realizing that it sticks around forever. Or at least, I can use it forever, unlike Propeller. So, yeah, this is Corroder, but a little bit cheaper and a little bit weaker, but with some occasional upside. I think this is going to see play right out of the pack, at least in Standard, especially in the face of the Cleaver ban that just came down the other day. In a world where Cleaver exists, I think this is maybe a tougher sell. This is a bit more of a dream at play. But in a world without Cleaver, this is extremely relevant in at least Anarch. I don't know if other factions are going to be quite as interested in paying 2 influence for this, necessarily, though.
Yeah, Cleaver is definitely more aggressive, but I think that as far as like aggressive options go, you can install this for 1 credit, right? And that's the biggest deal, which means that this plus an overclock can get you past the big barrier, right? And that's like, it's a little bit like a Mayfly in that way, right?
I think there is a world where Shaper could splash for this because they get to play Propeller as like an early game solution, and then once the Propellers are expended, they can convert into a Rising Tide line, and maybe if they've got a couple of Propellers in the bin, this thing's sitting at 3 base strength, which is exactly where you want to be for many of the kind of the low to mid-range barriers that are out there. Criminal doesn't need this necessarily. I think Kurapir is fine, but yeah, like you said, the fact this costs 1 versus what is P-Spike 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, Pressure Spike being 4 is, I mean, it's not, 3 credits doesn't sound like a lot, which is a stupid thing to say, but it's like, it's...
Right, who's going to make
the difference?
It's a whole econ card, right?
Yeah, that's 1 whole easy mark. Like, come on.
Do the 3 Propeller, 2 Rising Tide, with 3 Palangi, turn everything into a barrier.
Sure, why not? Yeah, I mean, sick. I'm in.
Yeah. Everything's a barrier, and I've got a 5 or 6 strength Rising Tide. At that point, though, like play a Begamot, right? But maybe you don't want to take. Maybe your strategy doesn't also want to take a bunch of core damage while playing 6 barriers. So.
I also think that this is going to do some interesting things to what barriers become popular. Obviously, the Cleaver ban has a lot to do with that, but that's sort of, okay, Cleaver's gone. What's the next best fractor? And the answer is not really clear. I think we're going to have to see how that one plays out. Each faction has kind of a compelling option. Criminal is Kurapira. Shaper gets whatever they want because they have Propeller. They get P-Spike, and then they get this thing if they want it. And then Anarch gets to play this, or Begamot, I guess, if you're exactly Essa, or you just like taking damage. But that makes it makes other ice that probably wouldn't have seen play before a little bit more appealing. Things like Palisade maybe become more appealing. Things like Maskarovka become more appealing because this doesn't look that good in the face of Maskarovka, if I'm being that honest.
Yeah, Maskarovka does seem like a card that's getting a huge glow up out of the Propeller ban. I think the other thing I might shout out as a coming back thing is... Oh, no, I don't know how to spell capacitor. Capacitor starts to look, probably still not that interesting, but a little bit more interesting in a world where this isn't broken for 1 credit in all cases, right? So
I thought you were talking about flux capacitor, if I'm being honest. I was
yeah,
like, doesn't that go on an ice? That doesn't help here.
yeah. No, this is nice that I think everyone forgot existed. Yeah, I think Masquerovka Palisade, like all of these like spins on ice wall or not ice wall, wall of static.
Wall static.
Yeah, that NSG has done, I think look a lot better in in a world where like all of those fractors we listed as like the starting ones are all like base strength 1. Right? Kurapira Propeller is even worse. It's base strength 0.
Correct, yeah.
And then Rising Tide is base strength 1, and it's only even like Pressure Spike is base strength 2, I think. So it looks like base strength 3 might be a very important break point for barriers going forward.
And there's no K2CP, so good luck trying to get there with cheating.
Yeah,
If only we
no
had-
turbine changes the math everywhere.
If only we had another card that was gonna like boost icebreaker strength. That wasn't
No,
turbine.
they would never do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They wouldn't let us have a segue that good, would they?
No, there's no way the segue could be that good. Dan, because you set that up so beautifully, I'll let you go. I want you to... Oh, actually, hold on. Before you say that, I'm glad we have a Scott Uminga art on a card that is not ever
It's
going
so
to get
pretty.
banned.
Oh yeah, this art is sick.
It's
I really
so
like
pretty.
this art.
I love it.
Over
It's
under
very
on when
well.
this is a playmat?
Well,
Yeah.
it's a conflict of interest for me to give
Right,
any...
Jeff, don't answer.
Worlds this year. I'm calling it.
All right, but Dan, you segued
All right.
beautifully into Game Jack and Tro, and then I threw that segue out. So let's...
All right, I'll forgive you. I actually just love the theming of Game Dragon Pro. I think they knew right away that they had gold on their hands with this idea. Just with like the naming and the theming, the fact that it actually looks like a Game Shark is excellent. I think that might be my favorite part about this card, and I'm actually not as hyped about how much this will do for boosting icebreakers. I mean, now that I'm realizing that a lot of the common breakers are starting off with low base strength, maybe this does see some meta relevance and some meta play, but I wonder how much money this will actually save you over time. I mean, it might be a couple credits every run that stacks up, but I think it's only going to be seen in a couple of Shaper decks, and they might have better tricks up their sleeve. So I don't know how much play this card is going to really see or how much impact it'll really have, besides the fact that it's super fun.
Agree. I feel like this card really wants to say +2 strength. This card reminds me a lot of kind of a cross between something like Net Ready Eyes and the Personal Touch. Net Ready Eyes being +2 strength back in the day was kind of the core reason why it was so good.
Nerdy Ice
+1
was actually just +1 strength.
Was
But
it +1? I could have sworn it was +2.
I've just pulled it
Oh,
up.
but we all put it on Yogg, so
Yes,
okay, all
yes,
right.
yeah. You put it on Yogg, so you got a 4 strength Yogg, and you just said, "What, you chump? You included any code gates in your list."
God, imagine putting a code gate in your deck. Couldn't be me. Anywho, I do think this card really wants to be 2, but there's a lot of floodgates here that I think hold this thing back from sparking a lot of joy. For me, setting aside the fact that it's a Shaper card, the fact that it only goes on one icebreaker, but is a big thing. The fact that you can't put it on your AI is potentially relevant. Not that there's a ton of AI breakers left. The big thing is that it's unique. The fact that you can only have one of these things up at any given time, I think, is the big factor that holds this thing back for me. I could see maybe a world where like a Labisamang deck wants to play this, but that thing's already base strength 2 and boost really efficiently to begin with, and I question whether you need it at that point, but you never know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of anti-glacier tech that we've been seeing, and this plus pressure spike is one of those potential anti-glacier tech pieces. I doubt you're really going to see it as the 3 of in any deck if it's played. It doesn't really seem like the kind of thing that you're going to need super early. This is like a late game save you money card, and it's cool. I like it, but I think that the amount of like glacier that you're going to see is really going to depend how much this gets played, right? In a huge glacier meta, with Atea being like at the top or something like that, then maybe this would be like a valuable include, because you'd be able to break, once you can break multiple pieces of ice with the same strength increase, it becomes like, almost worth it, right? If you can break 3 pieces, it's almost certainly worth it. And over more and more turns, this gets more and more like net value, right? But if you compare it to something like Sure Gamble, like how much money are you saving for the click that it took for you to install this? It really depends on how much ice you're breaking with it, right? If you're only getting the +1 strength, it's going to be a lot of turns before you see a return on that.
I think that this is a tech card. I think you call this out. Definitely, this is a anti-glacier card. I think that if we start seeing decks that are going to take advantage of the fact that breakers are about to get considerably weaker for at least 2 out of 3 factions, if not all 3, if a deck is trying to take advantage of that by stacking, let's say I'm a Wayland built-to-last deck, and I'm just going to sit there and stack my giant barriers and say, now what? Well, this seems like a pretty good include to deal with a deck that's going to have, 10 of one ice type, because I could just slam this thing on my Fractor and say, well, now I only have to pump my P Spike once, maybe twice if I hit a Pharaohs or something.
Yeah.
The problem with this being a tech card is it's in Shaper and it's not a program. The fact this isn't available on demand is going to hurt, I think.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think that it's going to be, we might end up seeing Shaper cards that help tutor for this, but generally, I'm not sure how likely that is to happen. Right now, we don't really have any hardware tutor than Wizard's Chest, which I don't know if you're going to import Wizard's Chest just for this. You need to probably have a couple more tech cards in your deck to import it. But I do think that, like, I wouldn't be surprised if I end up seeing this, but I would be surprised if it ends up being in every Shaper deck. I think there's certain Shaper decks that want to like counter weaknesses they might have. Maybe even decks that run like Lobby Somum or something would use this because it can break multiple different types of ice despite not being AI. So maybe there's a little bit of like synergy there. You might get more value out of this. But yeah, overall, I think it's really going to depend on how much Glacier's in the meta. If there's a lot of Glacier, you might see this. Otherwise, you're probably not going to see it that much.
Someone in chat's calling out that Gauss's ability doesn't wear off at the end of the run if it has a Game Dragon on it, which is kind of a neat interaction.
I think Gauss doesn't. It's not end of the run anyways. It's end of turn.
It's end of turn, right?
End of turn.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
I'm trying to.
Gauss goes back.
I was also trying to go for the Cyber Trooper to loot play.
Yeah. I know.
So
it's
there is a way to make it work. I'm pretty sure. I think that if you have Cyber Trooper to loot and then you also have Masterwork.
Wait, no, it does.
You can Masterwork on. You can install it and then Masterwork on the Game Dragon, and it'll last for the rest of the turn.
Jeff, can you pull up Gauss again? I just want to read the text.
I mean, so Gauss, it's not that Gauss does it. So when you install this programming, it's +3/6 for the remainder of the turn, and this says for the remainder of the run.
They're already at longer duration anyways.
Got it. Okay.
I don't
hold on.
I don't read Shaper cards.
Okay, this is a ruling question, but would that decrease its duration?
No.
Would that change it to be? Oh, instead of any shorter duration.
And that's the reminder text, which is not technically rules text, but like I trust that the rules team knows that there's something in the CR that's a provision of like the longest effect is the dominant one or something. I think I'm going to quickly. Wentagon's shouting out a couple of things like Carmen at base 3 strength, because this gives the +1 boost. Like that takes Drafter from being 4 to break to 2 to break. So like you do that twice and you've probably paid off the card. Now you're paying influence and you have to draw and all that stuff. Shibboleth going to 4 in the early game is maybe useful. The other one I might say is interesting to me is, I was just lamenting Repeller being at 0 strength. Well, now I can break an ablative barrier without having to spend one of the power counters. And that seems like that could be interesting. Just make sure
you don't use all of them. Just don't use all your power counters and it'll go away.
Well, actually, no. Propeller doesn't trash until you choose to. It's one of the for an unusual Borealis card. Yeah, where it doesn't trash itself.
But Jeff, I think you're totally right that Game Dragon will probably see its best home in decks that have like specific breakpoints that really matter, and for specific icebreakers that have like expensive boost costs. I mean, actually, if you were gonna like put together the Shaper late game engine with Echelon, well, I guess we don't have Turbine anymore, but like some of those last few key strength boosts can really matter, so you don't have to pay 3 credits for a boost.
Yeah, and this will also make it so that if you do have to pay 3 credits for a boost, at least you might get that same, you might get to keep that boost, right? And it wouldn't go away into the next ice. I don't know. I think that this card is cool, but like I don't think it'll be incredibly popular. But I don't think it needs to be super popular.
No, this card is just a fun meme that I think people will enjoy putting in their decks to have fun.
It's also nice to have a
and-
mod back. It's been
Yeah,
we've gotten
yeah.
mods.
I don't know if we have too many other mods in the game anymore. And I mean, I think Dan called this out right at the beginning. Art's great. He called out that it looks like a game genie. Someone in chat pointed out that it really looks like the defect from Slay the Spire is peeking out from the left hand side. And like now that I've seen that, I can't unsee it.
Yeah, someone asked in the art that, like, I'm not going to say what it is, but I did give permission to use it. That's the splash screen, but it also looks like Defect's hand is in that. So, you know, we've all been Slay the Spire pilled at this point. Let's, in the interest of time, move on to this card, which, you know, I'll be curious to hear everyone's thoughts on. This is Side Hustle. It's a 2-cost resource job. When you install this resource, or whenever a run begins, place 1 credit on this resource. When there are 6 or more hosted credits, take all credits from this resource, trash it, and draw 1 card.
And stocks are through the roof on this thing.
Yeah, this thing is awesome. I love this. I love aggressive cards. I love stuff like Penny Shaver. I love that it gets you the credits right away at the start of the run, so you can like get them effectively like 1 run early, which is cool. Yeah, this is a very cool resource, not even just for criminal, but just for anybody who likes to run a lot. It also draws you the card back, which makes it like better than a sure gamble in the long term, which is good. I think that like, and you can have multiple stack it to say it's not unique, so you could install like 3 of them and then like have 3 of them pop at the same time. Yeah, I think this is I don't know how ubiquitous it'll be. It'll really depends on how decks want to end up playing. But this is like a nice aggressive setup resource, right? Rather than clicking your telework every turn, you can be running your telework instead of clicking it, which I much prefer that playstyle. So I'm very excited to see this card, and I'm probably putting a lot of decks.
I mean, I pretty much agree. This is a great aggro card. It probably won't be ubiquitous like Shapers. I don't know how thrilled Shapers are going to be about this thing, unless we get another Shaper deck that is very interested in running multiple times per turn. Because I think you want to run more than once per turn while this thing's cooking.
Almost certainly, yes.
Yeah, I feel
So
like
you
waiting
can't
5
really afford
turns
to
for
be-
this is tough.
Yeah, you don't want to wait 5 turns for your basically your sure gamble. But yeah, I really like the design on this, and you know, from a teaching perspective, this is just a great kind of card to include in your teaching deck because it's like, okay, you want your money, interact. So you can make runs, touch cards, make the court make decisions,
And it doesn't even require a successful run, which I love. I love that you can
exactly.
fail.
Yeah, well, it's also, you know, you call that out. It's like, hey, go faith check stuff. Just make runs, because like you're not gonna get anything off this if you just sit back on your heels and let the game come to you. You got to go take it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I think
Chat is calling out
sorry.
that you can Sable and Swift and pop this in a single turn.
yes, I was also gonna say that.
Yeah, that's sick.
But that's a good point. Like, I think it's really cool to have cards like this, especially economy cards, that will reward you for playing them at the right moment. I love daily casts, but you know, as long as you're not dipping too low in money, right? As long as you're not dipping too low, there aren't that many bad times to play it, you know, or it can fit a lot of situations. Whereas this, I think, will really reward you for choosing the right moment or knowing when you're going to be running the next 2 turns. You set up enough, you know, spending the money just to get like a wait for a drip or 2 is not the move. But I'm excited to see Sable, you know, pop 2 or 3 of these in like 2 turns in front of my face.
Yeah, I plan on putting this in Issa too, just because as Issa, I pretty much always rather be running than sitting back and clicking a resource, right?
This was designed when Trickshot was legal. Because like, could you imagine a world where this and Trickshot
Oh my
exist at the same
God.
time?
It's the world where this exists, you know, utopia. The world where it doesn't exist. The tragedy we're
Actually,
in now.
isn't it called Startup where you can do this?
Oh yeah, you're totally
Oh.
right. I might have to play Startup.
Hochiko's not in startup.
No.
Hochiko's not in startup, so it's okay.
When's it also calling out always have a backup plan for the 4 people in the audience that have read that card?
That have ever
No,
used that
I
card.
mean that's a good shout. It's another way to make 2 runs in 1 click. Like it kind of works.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I wonder if there's a world where like not like all in knives decks play this because I mean always have a backup plan in a world where Inside Job doesn't exist, is kind of the best thing that you got going. That's like the closest to an Inside Job, other than obviously Estebrado. Yeah,
I think Knives decks will win this absolutely because they're running pretty frequently to get triggers, right? So this is a trigger that doesn't even require a successful run, which I think is one of the best triggers, and something that is kind of missing in a lot of criminal cards, like stuff like Red Team. It needs successful runs, Penny Shaver, all that. This is a way to play criminal and be able to fail and face check ice and stuff, right? Just like Bravado. So you'd be able to combo this Bravado, make a ton of money, and still be pressuring the corp while you're making all that money.
Soft asset spam tech is also good. I mean, often in an NEH game, if you can't trash everything but you need to check the deck, you sometimes make like 3 runs in a turn. And so not having to like import some heavy econ options, I mean, I feel like people used to import like Fermenter as a way to keep up sometimes with some of those NBN decks. I think this is a good option at least.
yeah. You're right. This would make for just some good, casual asset spam hate.
Cool. Well, I will save my rant about. Actually, I will just quickly say I was amazed to see people bashing daily casts when it got on the ban list, but that can be I'll maybe make a whole polemic video about that. We've got next up nano management. This is just biotic labor. Anyone have?
I don't know what you're talking about. This is nano management.
Yeah,
This is a
excuse
completely
me.
different card.
Totally a different thing.
How legal will it be for me to keep biotic labors in my deck and call them alt arts?
So in a casual event, ask your TO. At Worlds, don't do it.
Got it.
Yeah.
This does mean you can
I
play
think
6 copies
exactly
of
in
Biotic
Eternal.
in Eternal.
You can
I
play
don't know how
Biotic.
good that is. I don't
Does
even know
anybody
if
play
I don't.
Biotic in Eternal?
I don't even play
Yes. Yeah, I play Biotic in Eternal. But
Okay,
yeah,
I've never played Eternal, so I wouldn't know.
it's a silly place.
I don't know. I think a Biotic reprint is fine. Like, not that many people are actually playing Biotic in current meta, which is, fine. I don't think Fast Advance is like the most fun thing in the whole world to play against. It's pretty fun to play as, but I don't know. Maybe it'll see play. Maybe the Fast Advance days of yore will be back. But I think it's just good for it to be evergreen because it does also just generally help. Instead of having to import Audacity, you can just play this or whatever. So yeah.
Cool.
I love the flavor text on this thing. It's
Yeah.
like just kind of subtly sinister. Bass being a bioroid and all.
Yeah, and he's also biotic labor, right? His ability is.
He's
biotic
literally
labor.
biotic labor on a stick. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
agree.
Well,
I'm happy this is in the game. I'm sad that sports is rotating, but I have a feeling
Yeah.
biotic will find many, many homes.
God, sports is so good.
all right. Well, we do have a new HB card to talk about. This is Top Down Solutions. It is a 2-cost operation. It says draw 2 cards, install up to 2 cards from HQ.
Mirror Morph Enjoyers Unite.
Yeah.
This is,
Is
like
this-
the most
Yeah.
Mirror Morphy card I've seen in since Ash's cycle, I think.
Really, I don't look at this as a mirror morph card, but
It's
maybe
just
I'm
a
wrong.
Hasbioroid card. It is just a Hasbioroid card.
I mean,
I mean,
Mirror
like-
Morph is just where my brain goes because it's an operation that you kind of just. I mean, it's an operation that just lets you play
Yeah.
the game and lets you basically take basic actions without taking basic actions. I mean, think about how many Mirror Morph decks were just playing like 1, maybe 2 copies of subliminal messaging just to be able to have an operation to fire.
Stuff like Greasing the Palm as well.
Yeah, stuff like greasing the palm. Like, I think this is just red level clearance is another good example. This is just like a nice little effect that Mirror Morph can use to play an operation without having to, put extra money operations or things that are just, like I said, it's just a cute little efficiency thing. The super HB. I think other HB decks will probably find a home for this, but to me, Mirror Morph is like the initial thing.
I mean, the wild
me.
thing to me is like the other option. Like I can think of a Thule deck that wants to play this. I don't want to play against
Yeah.
that Thule deck, but it exists. Let's see,
I think
Thunderbolt.
HB acid spam is coming in
Oh, yeah.
whatever ID works best, but like top-down solutions will facilitate that. Getting to fire top-down solutions after you play corporate hospitality, I feel like sounds like a lot of fun. I also can see this being useful if you wanted to build some kind of fully operational deck. Just getting you some extra efficiency to install protective ice over all of those, nearly must-trash assets that HB got in the last few sets.
Yeah.
I can see these actually pairing together pretty well.
I am a little
Basically
mad.
an Asa trigger.
Yeah, I'm a little mad that NSG didn't print this while Asa was still legal.
Well, it would be
Because
crazy in Asa. So.
Yeah, this is cracked in Asa, I think.
I would love to be able to install 3 cards and draw 2 cards for 1 click. Please give me NSG, give me.
And then play it again 2 more times.
You play Eternal. You can do that.
Yeah, you can do that.
I
That's
too
true.
love bringing nested triggers back into my games of Netrunner.
I don't know. I think I'm gonna play this card in most of my Hasbird decks. Like, I think it's just better than taking the basic actions, right? It's a little bit like red level clearance in that way. Like, if you were gonna draw 2 cards and install 2 cards, you should probably play this card, right? Because it's at 2 credits, you're effectively trading 2 credits for like 4 clicks, but you always have to draw and play this still. So it's like,
Go ahead, sorry.
yeah, I feel like it's in terms of numbers, it's gonna be quite similar to like red level clearance, which people love and think it's amazing. And I also think this is just generally going to be a lot of value. Like it's not just installed in your remote server. You can install ice too. So you can just like protect your centrals on turn 1. If you get this, you can draw 2 cards and then install the card you drew since it happens first. I don't know. Like, I just think this is generically really useful to do basic actions that you want to do. And 2 credits is not a big price to pay for taking 4 basic actions.
I could see Atea decks actually maybe wanting to splash for a copy or 2 of this if they have the int free, just because it's a neat little way to get an Atea trigger. Draw 2, install in server 1, Atea trigger to install Honor, protecting server 2, and then you can install second card in whichever server. It doesn't matter. I don't know. It's just a cute little efficiency piece. When we talk about KPI in a little bit, spoilers, I think also that's secretly an Atea card as well as a Wayland card. But yeah, it's just, there's not a lot to say about this one. It's just a cute little value piece. Speaking of cute, I have to caucus my co-casters here. Are the little octopus guys, are they cute or horrifying to you?
Both. My immediate reaction was these are charming and terrifying. Like, I can pull up the receipts. I don't know how they do both, but they are both.
I think they're really terrifying looking, but they're kind of doing cute things, like hanging from a support beam.
I think these guys are adorable, and I'm willing to rescind HB sucks, pass it on. HB sucks except for these guys, pass it on.
All right. Well, with that,
they all started moving towards you. Carry on.
With that, let's go on to our next card, IP Enforcement. This is an X cost operation, subtype Gray Ops. As an additional cost to play this operation, remove X tags. Install 1 agenda from the runner's score area with a printed agenda point value equal to X. If the runner is still tagged, place 1 advancement counter on that agenda. It is 5 influence and also 5 to trash. And I will. This art is great. I've already seen the lawsuit going around on some discords as a react, which is great.
So I feel like when this card got spoiled, I'll shout out my local Wisconsin meta. The folks in my Discord, the Wisconsin Discord, were like, "Oh, I can already see the 6-point swings coming, where my opponent yanks a 5-3 from me." I don't actually think that that's going to be how this card plays out. I think in actuality, what's way more likely for this to happen is you're going to use this to yank 1-pointers back. Right off the bat, my brain went to, well, this is a really good way to get back my false leads in some sort of nightmare, disgusting false lead click crunch thing. This is also a really annoying thing to do to an Oracle think tank, given that it already gives them the tag. Now you have 2 different ways of taking this thing away from somebody. I think I don't know how good this is necessarily. I wonder if the juice is going to be worth the squeeze. But I could see a world where there's some deeply annoying things you could do with if there's some 1-pointers that are good enough to steal.
Yeah, I think the power fantasy of this card is absolutely there. I'm literally taking your agendas away. It's like Nightmare Archives, but yellow, which I like. So I think that one of the ways that this might be pretty useful is if you're going to score out, you put like an Amaze Amusements on the remote, and then you throw like your agendas in there, so you can put like, whatever. I was thinking tomorrow's headline is probably pretty effective. And then you put like pings or funhouse on the remote, and then if they run it, they're going to suffer enough tags that you can get the agenda back if they end up stealing it. Otherwise, you can score it out and then potentially tag punish them on the same turn, right? If you do a slow score. So that's sort of how I was thinking about using this, is playing sort of normal Netrunner, but making the remote punishing enough that you're going to take enough tags that IP enforcement will basically force the agenda back.
I think that's a great call. I mean, if you're forcing the runner to spend a lot of resources to get through a server, or spend a lot of time and money trying to clear those tags, having IP enforcement as a threat and a way of saying, it's like, if you don't thread this needle perfectly, I'm going to make you do this all over again, or you can't stop me. I think is a good shout, and it does make me wonder if we can play like a little more normal Netrunner, quote unquote, in yellow, which I feel like has really struggled to do some of that, like classic scoring behind ice.
I really hope that's exactly what it leads to. Like, I hope that we can. I've always NBN tag cards to me have felt like they've been, especially in the current meta, they've been far too about control. And I don't mind playing control, but generally I'd prefer to play regular Netrunner. And this is like a card that I think is very janky and fun, but also has a place in a deck that uses tags for economy and for scoring rather than for like, end of the line or for add your cards to your hands, whatever that one was.
I mean, I've loved playing BCP as Bari and firing off self-growth programs, even though it can lead to some miserable games if you get really far ahead, but it leads to some really fascinating ones where you are trying to calculate, if I remove these programs, how much money does the runner have? Can they install them? Can they get back in? You still play that same game of resources up against the server and placing your bets and your judgment for it. So I agree. I think this will be cool and probably not broken, but good luck.
I don't think this is that strong of a card, to be honest. It's much like other tag cards. It's very situational, except with this one, you need to land a certain number of tags and have an agenda that you can get back with those tags. And then also, if you want to insta score it, you're going to also need to have them stay tagged. So like, there's a lot of setup required for it, which makes it not as good as something just like a classic end of the line kill deck, which makes me think that this is probably going to be more in like a regular NBN scoring deck, which I think is a playstyle that should be highlighted a little bit more. I don't think that that is necessarily a bad thing, that NBN has been mostly like evil, bounce all your cards simulator 2016. But I do think that IP enforcement is, first of all, it's extremely fun if you get it off. But it's also just going to be another support piece in a potential NBN renaissance.
I want to.
Yeah, the comp to me for this is. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Jeff.
I'm going to quickly shout out, if you can land a Oppo research and your opponent doesn't clear any of the tags, this can score a freedom of information from their score area. For 2 credits, which is maybe kind of funny. I kind of want to try that now. Of like, can I get freedom, like feed the runner freedom of informations to turn on oppos and then use those oppos to just take them right back with IP enforcements. That sounds good.
The comp for me for this card is something like the old exchange of information from back in the day, but that was basically just like a 3 or 4 point swing in one click, always, no matter what. There's a lot more. It begs interaction, right? Because you're not, unless you're way ahead, you're probably not fast advancing off of this thing. You're only ever getting one advancement counter, so you could probably only fast advance a stolen 3-2. Beal leaves the format, so unless we get another 3-2, the only one that NBN's going to have is FOI sometimes, and then tomorrow's headline. So it feels like there's enough gates in play to make this thing a little bit less miserable to play against than exchange of information.
I don't even think this will be that scary to play against. I think that first of all, the 5 trash cost means that if you're really, really scared of it, there is a way to like deal with it, right? Like if you see it in HQ, you can be like, oh no, I don't want, like if you want to take tags, you can trash it, right? But 5 is a pretty heavy trash cost. There's not a lot of runners who want to pay that. So I think that if you're playing against this, what it's going to be about is generally it's going to be about controlling your tags. Because if you only take like 1 tag and float it, then you're only losing up to a 1-pointer, which isn't that big of a deal. If you are just floating hundreds of tags, then you're never going to get an agenda safe, right? So, like, I think that it'll be just like playing against any kind of tag storm deck. In that, if you're taking tags, something bad is going to happen. This is just one of the bad things that might happen to you. It's not as bad as dying, so
I do think that it's going to be really funny to drag people through that hell server that you call out, Cat, make them take, God knows how many tags, only to
yeah,
IP enforce them, and then follow up with an Oppo research because, oh, whoops, you did steal an agenda last turn.
yeah.
You're bad.
The lose is
Like,
exactly what
this is going to
that
create
server's going to
some
be.
absolutely brutal forks. And so, yeah, I think this card will probably get people periodically. There's enough gates in play that I don't know how scary it's going to be to play against. 5 trash is a lot, especially against the Oppo research faction. Uh, so I don't know. I don't know how often you want to really trash this thing just on site, with no tags. But yeah, if you go tag me, you could at least see this thing in R&D or HQ, and if you have 5 credits, you don't just like die on the spot.
All right,
Yep.
let's go on to our next card, Anthill Excavation Contract. This is a 3-cost Wayland asset industrial. When you res this asset, load 8 credits onto it. When it is empty, trash it. When your turn begins, take 4 credits from this asset and draw 1 card. It has a 1 trash cost and 2 influence.
This card
I
so
think
much.
I
I
love
want to
this
play with
card.
this thing.
I
I want
love
to play
this
with
card
this
a
thing
lot.
yesterday in Ob.
This card is fantastically designed. It's so fast. It takes 2 turns to pay out, and it gets you cards. You actually net a card from installing this,
And it's
which is
credit
amazing.
positive on the turn you
On the
res it
same,
too.
it's like a juiced up mega Nico campaign, except it only has a 1 trash cost. But right, you run it with Makoto Langet Grid, and then suddenly it's a 3 trash cost, and it only costs you 1 to res. And then you just keep doing that turn after turn, and you have this insanely valuable economy remote. You put like a taxing ice on it, and then suddenly like that's your economy engine, right? Rather than clicking a regolith, rather than like vomiting 100 Maryland campaigns, you just need an anthill every turn, or something similar to it, in your Makoto Langet economy remote, and all of your cards and credits are taken care of. Obviously, the runner can run in and trash it, but because of Makoto Langet, it's going to be more expensive, right? That's where I see this being the most fun to me, and already where I'm like wanting to run this in sort of Wayland Glacier kind of deals, is have an extra remote that isn't my scoring remote that I throw this and Makoto Langet in, a taxing piece of ice on it, and then basically I'm just paid out turn after turn, right? The 1 trash cost is liability and R&D, but it's not like I think it's a fair downside for how quickly this card pays out.
I think this is an instant 3x in every Ob deck, basically until either it or Ob stops being legal, whichever comes first. I genuinely think so. Without border control in the game anymore, pretty soon, right?
Yeah.
Up until this point, I feel like 4 into 3 is like the go-to ob chain right now, and I genuinely think that with the printing of Anthill, that's going to change from 3 into 2. 3 into 2 is going to become the big ob chain going forward because of this thing. I think this thing is ridiculously powerful in Ob. The fact that it's a 1 trash cost is a nice little limiting factor on it. Ob is already pretty weak out of R&D. This is basically just going to exacerbate that problem. But your Ob, you're already thinning at R&D every turn if you're doing your job. But I mean, my dumb Ob pilled brain is just like salivating over getting to sleeve this thing up. I think this could get splashed. I mean, I could even see like Epiphany wanting to play something like this. Yeah, you want to come trash this for 1 and give me a power counter? Cool, I'll take that deal.
Yeah, and I could see. I mean, I could see Hasbyrite playing it too. It's so much faster than Maryland. It doesn't require you to click it like Regolith, so you install it and it saves you clicks, which Hasbyrite wants all their clicks to do stuff, right? You want to be moving the game forward, scoring out, and this will basically pay you to score agendas every turn too, right? 4 is enough to score an agenda every single turn. You're drawing into more and more cards, which is something that Hasbyrite also loves doing. I think that this is like just a very well designed economy card, um, and I don't know. I really like this.
I agree. I think that 1 trash cost is going to hurt, but it's probably worth it. When Rashida is trashed for 1, it feels fair, right? It's like I wasn't going to have to pay anything. It was going to get me so much value. You should be able to get this easily. Having to pay 3, but the runner can just deal with it pretty quickly. I feel like with a pinhole, it could be a bummer, but at least you'll get some money out of it early on. I think pinhole stocks are going to go way up, but I'm glad that it's low enough influence that it can be considered in probably all of the factions as an econ card.
Yeah, I think it will have great Makoto grid synergy though.
Yeah, we'll talk
Yeah, I
about
agree.
about Langit Grid in a little bit. I can't pull it up because I haven't put things in, but let's keep moving on. Actually, yeah, we're making okay time. I also don't think we'll have a ton to say about this card. But this is Kesselroyd. This is maybe one of those 2-cost targets. Is 2 to res, 1 strength, ice barrier. The runner cannot trash this ice parenthetical text while it's installed, or while it's resed, excuse me. And then it has 2 subroutines, end the run and end the run.
After Cleaver Ban, this is looking a lot better. So
I think this is just a nice little barrier to have. It's a good effect to have in the game too, and ice that can't be trashed. Means that there's a tech card you can put in your deck for something like A Crew or any other potential ice trash that comes down the road. Please God no. It reminds me a lot of Self-Adapting Code Wall from the FFG days, which was kind of a niche card. Didn't really see a lot of play. Actually, I don't really recall seeing it ever, maybe. But I think that card was 3. This card being 2 is pretty meaningful. Oh, also, Self-Adapting Code Wall couldn't be lowered. Yeah, you can still trash it, but generally lowering the strength was how you trashed it. So it effectively said you can't trash it.
Yeah, it's actually it's also like when you compare that, like, oh, this is 1 credit cheaper and has 1 additional subroutine. So like you're getting quite a bit of value that way.
Yeah, it's one influence card. I think a lot of factions may end up flashing for this if A Crew starts seeing really heavy play. Yeah, just a good workhorse card, just a nice workhorse 2-cost ice to add to the list of workhorse Wayland ice. Shout out to Descent. Wayland ice is eating good, I think, as of late.
Cool.
Yep, I think this is also a nice rush piece, right? Like, it's super cheap to res, so if you want to rush out behind it, it's like a crappy little gear check that takes a single breaker to break, but they can't crew it, so it's got like 1 extra bit of protection from anti-rush. Right?
Yeah, and Ice Wall is rotating, so maybe this is the new Wayland Ice Wall.
Yeah.
The end of an era, man. Ice Wall's been around since 2012, guys.
Oh boy.
Jeez. I love this art too, the Crumbler art on Kesselroyd. It's really cool. I don't really know what's going on, but it's very neat. I like looking at it.
So strange. Yeah, I think it's gonna be like a very vibrant card when you put it on the table. I wonder if we get like a full art for it or something.
It's like Saizen core kind of.
Yeah, it's begging to be a full art.
All right, I think okay, we have a couple. Yeah, actually, we have another Wayland Ice here. Cylindria is my or Cylindria. This I expect I've seen a lot of people talking about this already. So this is a 4 to res 5 strength code gate AP. You can advance this ice when the runner encounters this ice. If it has 3 or more hosted advancement counters, you may place 1 advancement counter on an installed card you can advance. And then it has 3 subroutines. You may place 1 advancement counter on an installed card you can advance. The runner loses 2 credits and do 1 net damage.
This is back. We did it. Yeah. We reprinted Mausolus. This thing's great.
It's a solid taxing ice, right? Like,
yeah, this thing's really good.
3 subs, 5 strength for 4 credits. Yikes! Like,
yeah,
that's a lot of cash.
And like so all the subs are relevant. I think probably the least relevant one is the advancement counter, but like
you can always advance itself, right?
Yeah, so that's exactly what I was gonna say. You can just advance itself, and now it kind of turns into weird Aket in a way once it hits 3. I think that Prov decks are probably gonna splash for this thing. Prov is gonna love this effect, and it costs $1 million to break for a lot of breakers at the moment. Yeah, this is just a really strong card. I don't really know what else to say about it. I think that this is going to be a nightmare.
I'm so afraid to see this in Prov decks. My only hope is that the influence between this, Logjam, and Treeline is too much for Pravdivus to bear.
Yeah,
like infinitely scaling ice.
Pravdivus influence should be 17. Change my mind.
No.
No, I'm sorry. Don't make me get started on Prov. I'm holding my tongue.
I feel like I have two minds about this card. On the one hand, I want to crew it immediately. Thank goodness they kept Devil Charm in the game. We're just gonna get rid of this. On the other hand, if you need to run through it, it's not the worst. I mean, depending on what kind of game is going on, losing 2 credits is a bummer, but whatever. A net damage, a lot of decks are totally fine with that. And the advancement counter only matters if either Shailendra has not been fully advanced or if there's something else on the board that really matters. But this is probably going to protect your centrals, so you can kind of pick and choose when it's the right time to run through. And when you have your fully charged twinning or you have a finality, I would not mind running through this on R&D. So I think
Yeah,
it makes
exactly.
me see which way it goes.
I agree. I don't think it'll be broken that often. I think it's mostly just going to be a taxing code gate that if you want to break it, you're going to have a good reason to want to break it, right? Like you're preventing a certain strategy that has to do with the advancement counter or the net damage, something like that. Um, but I think it's generally going to cost more to break it than it is to just face the subs. But that's still good for the corp. You're effectively spending 4 credits for, uh, something that the runner is going to have to let you do every time, right?
Totally.
Fully on board with runners. We're just running through this thing willy nilly. I don't think that's necessarily going to end well every time. I mean, yeah, if you're going for a glory run, then like sure, obviously you're happy to see this thing. It doesn't stop me, this, that, or the other. But like, I don't know. I think that most runners are going to run through this thing like twice, then be like, well, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah, exactly. I
That
think
was
this
kind of
is
how
gonna.
that was how Mausolus played out back in the
Yeah.
day. It was like you would run through it like once, and then you would be like, well, that sucked. Now I'm gonna break it. So,
Yeah. Also, 3 subs is relevant for like bonker and stuff. So like,
True. But also
Boomerang.
raindrops.
Boomerang as well. Yeah, Raindrops actually loves this thing for
yeah,
sure.
that's I said that already. Yeah. Raindrops is. I mean, it's already an amazing card. So another reason why it's a must run in every Anarch deck.
All right, let's hit the next card. Let me my card numbers are slightly off the actual thing. No, actually, they're not. Excuse me. This is key performance indicators. It's a 1-cost operation transaction, 2 influence. Resolve 2 of the following in any order. Draw 1 card. Shuffle 1 card from HQ into R&D. Install 1 piece of ice from HQ, ignoring all costs. Place 1 advancement counter on an installed card you can advance, and gain 2 credits. This was spoiled at Worlds. This is
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Wayland level clearance is kind of the way I've been thinking about this. This is sort of a Waylandized version of red level in a lot of ways to me. I really like this card. I think it's really cool. Right where my brain went when I saw this thing first is like, oh, this is just this is a Sokka BTL like Hyper Glacier card, like Hyper Glacier 6 agenda nonsense that's gonna sit there and just prolong the game forever is gonna love a card like this because every single one of those modes is relevant in a deck like that.
I want to shout out to align with that point. While this is Sokka's first champ card, this is the one that's attributed to his 2023 BTL Grinder Worlds win.
Weird.
Wild how that happens.
I'm excited for the like Sokka booster deck or booster pack that's going to come out with like 6 cards or something by the time. No. Anyways, I think this is like it looks like a boring card, but it opens a lot of possibilities. Letting you score out on very, very low credit thresholds by letting you place an advancement but gain some money back is a good one. I'm curious to see if any other factions will take this card, but it could be the like silent facilitator that a couple of different decks could lean on. Besides, of course, the BTL Glacier.
I think it likes a card like this. It likes the install an ice from HQ ignoring all cost mode. For sure. I think Mirror Morph may also like a card like this. All of those modes are very relevant in Mirror Morph. And again, Mirror Morph just kind of wants just like generically good operations to fire off. Just the minute it sees them or the minute it has an opportunity to get a Mirror Morph trigger. Wentagon's pointing out that technically this is relevant Iswak text because it's placing an advancement counter, not advancing a card, which is legally distinct. So yeah, I think that this will have a lot of weird and unexpected homes as just like a nice little role player.
Yeah, with 2 seamless launch, you could score 5-3 from 1 credit on an Isawak.
Oh God! Why did you say that with Wentagon in the chat?
Oh, very cool. All right, let's move on to the next card, our penultimate card to talk about tonight. It is Measured Response. This is a 5-cost Operation Black Ops in Wayland, 4 influence, 3 to trash. It says play only if the threat level is 4 or greater, and only if the runner made a successful run during their last turn. Do 4 meat damage unless the runner pays 8 credits.
When a public trail and end of the line love each other very much, they make this card.
I wholeheartedly agree. I am so glad that it matches how public trail functions, at least in some key respects. I think that helps, readability of the card. I think that helps when this gets paired in what is going to be called the core set between Gateway and Elevation. I think it just will help general understanding, because my greatest beef with Punitive Counter-Strike is it was just confusing. I actually didn't hate the card. I think it added a lot of fun things to the game, even though it was like way overtuned at some points and in some metas. But I think my least favorite thing is just how confusing and unintuitive the punitive master would be, or understanding if you were safe or not. Like that's just
I
tough,
just think
so.
traces in general. I think traces in general are unintuitive and confusing in almost every place they appear, and the move to rotate them generally out of the game has been, I'm a relatively recent player, but from playing with older cards that have traces, they're either really bad or really good, and I think that they're also really confusing. Every time I play with a new player and try and teach them something, they're like, "What is a trace?" Even if they've played before. So yeah, I think that this is a much more like intuitive version of punitive, but also it's like better than punitive in some ways. You just need to make a successful run. So basically, if the corp has like 10 credits, you have to be terrified for your life, right? Because they could just play 2 of these and you would die, which is pretty scary, right? Like,
Just have 8 credits. Easy.
yeah, easy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, maybe if you're like, I don't know, a shaper or something, or Hashiko, but
Yeah, you're right, by the way, to be appreciative of the fact that traces are in the game. Having been playing since traces were ubiquitous, I mean, I can attest that they were miserable and just ground the game to an instant halt the minute that a player said trace, and we were all suffering from a strange form of Stockholm syndrome. I think this is good. I think that the 3 trash cost is going to hold it back a lot. This is going to be really hard to hold in hand, I think. And that's the thing, because you
Basalt
want to hold,
Spire, right?
Yeah, Basalt Spire is probably the best way of like making sure that you can kind of have this thing when you need it. But like, this is a card that you're probably gonna want to hold in hand for at least some period of time, because you can't play it for roughly half the game, or at least however long it takes to get to threat 4. But by that point, if you draw it too early, then the runner can just come trash it from HQ, or they can trash it out of R&D, because 3 is not a big lift, let's be real. And then, of course, if you don't see it on time when the threat is 4 or greater, then it's as good as you may as well not have had it in the first place. So this is a weird one to try to assess for me. I can see this maybe getting some love with the deck, like something that's playing Pivot. Obviously, Basalt Spire. Gaslight also really likes this. Basalt Spire, obviously, because then you can just hold them in archives forever. But I think people are definitely going to play with this thing. I just don't know exactly what decks it's going to go in yet.
I think a lot of people are commenting that the threat of it is really the whole point of the card, right? Like, even if your deck doesn't actually run Measured Response, it could be running Measured Response, right? Which is going to change how runners play. So you can, sort of play around that in a way.
Yeah, I love that the threat mechanic is just getting codified now. Threat is genuinely probably my favorite mechanic since NSG took over running Netrunner. It's just so elegant and super easy to explain, unlike traces. And so to see threat coming back in what is effectively a core set, it makes me really happy.
One thing that I want to mention with this card, there's lots of ways to play around it, which I think is a very good thing for a card that can be this strong. But threat 4, I think is going to be pivotal. Sorry for the pun. I don't know. The fact that you can't immediately turn it on by stealing a 3-pointer is probably very good. But what do agenda sweeps look like for the decks that want to play this? Because if the runner has stolen 6 points or you have scored 6 points, you have to wait until then to finally play Measured Response. That feels like it should not be your core game plan.
Oh yeah, in a 5/3 deck. Yeah, I think that's actually a big difference. Is this probably doesn't want to be in a 5/3 deck, because
100% agree. Yeah, I think that's a mistake.
Yeah, I think this will be probably seen mostly in 3-2 decks. Wayland still has a couple of 3-2s left over even after rotation, which is nice. You've got like Azef and stuff. So they actually have an opportunity to like maybe play a kind of 3-2 style deck. But I also think that it does kind of want Basalt Spire. Like Basalt Spire makes a lot of sense with this card. So I'm not entirely sure. Like I think that it could see play in a Basalt Spire Nuvum kind of style deck in which you are able to get it back. But without Basalt Spire, I think this is going to be a lot more of like a difficult ask, maybe similar to Punitive, right? Like where you can't always get off the triple Punitive that you need to kill. But it is still a pretty. I mean, like there's not many cards that don't have like the runner can't really do anything if they don't have 8 credits, right? They're just going to die. So unlike something like Public Trail, which gives them a tag that could be potentially removed, it's sort of like and also requires an extra card end of the line if you want to actually get a kill with it, right? And then another tag at another end of the line. This is a much more consistent like threat. Like there's a certain time in the game when this is absolutely possible to be pulled off and isn't that unreasonable to consider, right? Right, it's not that hard to assume your opponent has 2 of these in their hand at some point. So I think that like that, as far as this card goes, makes it like more interesting to play around than like Punitive, because Punitive is weird in a lot of ways and isn't going to affect the like super late game that much. This will affect the super late game that much, and you're gonna have to think about it like constantly.
Meteor in chat's calling out Regenesis Fuji as a fun way to turn measured response on in Jinteki, which is, I mean, that's one way to get to threat 4 immediately off of 1 agenda score.
Yeah, you do that, and then you can play this the same turn that you score.
Oh god.
Yeah,
True.
people were shouting out a funny line where like if it's threat 2 and you like have an Ozef in the remote, the runner like makes successful run on a central, you like seamless launch, advance the Ozef, and then measured response, and that's 6 damage.
Yeah, and get a kill.
Yes. I'm gonna die to that at least once. I already.
Oh yeah, there's so many ways you're gonna die to this card.
Yeah, I mean, like I do. It's interesting where like I think the existence of this card means that decks that could plausibly be running this, like you have to play against them differently than you have up till like this has been a whole season of Netrunner where the runner's credit total is between 0 and 8. Like I feel like in most
absolutely.
games. Because there was just so much bounce back econ, and we're seeing less bounce back econ, and B, we now have this card that says, "Excuse me, you're dead if you don't have 8 credits," which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Scorched Earth in that way, where like just the mere like, oh, is this a Scorched Earth deck? Is gonna just very vastly change how you approach the matchup, which makes the Scorched Earth callback in the flavor text that much sweeter to me.
Yeah. It even kind of looks like Scorched Earth a little bit, like the
little bit, yeah.
Building. Yeah, I think the art is very pretty. I like it.
I also feel like the person who is in the car, like, looks kind of similar. It's really small, but
yeah, it's hard to tell.
I think it's just enough that it makes me think that it could be the same person.
I don't even know if they're set in the same location. Like, I don't even know if like has the potential to be in the like the greater area. But I don't know.
That's Elizabeth Mills on Scorched Earth, so it would be surprising if it was her. But whoever's in Measured Response does have like kind of the same bob cut. Yeah. Granted, I have to squint and like enhance, 500 times.
Enhance. All right, do we want to move on to talk about the final card of the pre-spoiler season?
Let's do it. This is probably my favorite card that's been showed off so far.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So Makoda Langet Grid is an upgrade region, 2 recurring credits. You can spend hosted credits to res assets in the root of this server and ice protecting this server. Persistent. The trash cost of each asset in the root of the server is increased by 2. Limit 1 region per server. 2 to trash, neutral, no influence. So what makes this your favorite card so far?
Because Mumba Temple's back. Let's go. Oh, this reminds me of Mumba Temple, but just like not free real estate. Because Mumba Temple was just like, yeah, use these credits. You can just do whatever you want with them. Just res cards. Yeah, I mean, that's basically just free money. This, you have to jump through a few more hoops for, but there's just like a million decks that this could go in, just as like a really sweet value piece. I think this is obviously going to find home in any deck that's going to sit there and score behind ice, because this is kind of just a Vovo Ozeti by another name. But I think you can also just put this in asset spam decks just to res assets a little bit cheaper and protect them slightly. I mean, something like hostile architecture is like where my brain goes with this, where it's like, yeah, I want to pay 3 to res that thing and then also make it 6 to trash and 2 meat damage because it's hostile architecture. Like, that sounds disgusting, and I'm going to be first in line to do that on Elevation release day. I think that this is just a sneakily good value card that a lot of decks are going to really enjoy. I think the only decks that may not want to just include at least one of these things would be any deck that's building like a clown car upgrade remote server, like maybe something like your classic PD, where you were going to be stuffing Skunkwork and Void. Not that Void would really be that good off of this thing, and maybe a Vovo and maybe, I don't know, something else into this. It probably won't get as much value because you can't res upgrades off of this, nor does the persistent effect affect upgrades.
Yeah, I think in Hasbiroid you're going to see a lot more Tranquility Home Grid. It's just more generically useful.
Yeah. This isn't better than Trank Grid, but I think it is better than the next best thing for most other Corp decks. Maybe not Vovo in exactly Atea, but
I feel like this is going to, maybe I could be wrong, but I feel like this is going to herald a new sort of play style that we haven't seen a whole lot of, which is the like single iced value asset remote, right? So you stuff a Makuta Langate in there, you put like a taxing ice on it, and then you have your economy engine churning out every single turn behind Makuta Langate, right? Especially with like Anthill, right? Anthill is perfect for this card. It is like precisely made. Nico,
get
also
out of my NRDB account, please.
And I think that is like a playstyle that I don't really see a whole lot of when I'm runner, and also haven't played a lot of as Corp, because there's not that much support for it, right? If you're going to play like iced assets, normally you play like Asa group and stuff, right? You fully op it, but this one's one, decently well protected remote where you can make all of your money from, right? And I think that's going to make for like cool play, right? It's like a second scoring remote almost is what I'm hoping for. So now there's 2 big servers that you want to contest. Obviously Altea already has that, but like it sort of makes an extra server for the runner to care about what you're putting in there, right? But this time it's because of the money. Pinhole, obviously very good card, but this helps against Pinhole because of the increased trash cost. So it ends up making it so that the credit swing is more in your favor time and again, right? So if you keep putting assets in there, eventually, if they're pinholing them all, they're going to lose out on money because you're not paying much to even res them, even if you res them, right? This has synergy with like a bunch of things, but mostly with short-term value assets like Anthill, like Regolith, and these are all cards that are pretty good. It also, I think it's great for new players. I don't know if this will be in, I guess it won't be in Learn to Play decks because I think they've already revealed all the cards that are in the Learn to Play decks. But this will be great for new players because this is an easy way for new players to protect themselves from like just putting an unprotected Regolith mining license that just dies in 2 seconds and they're like, where's all my money? Because when I play against new players, sometimes they don't protect their money, or they run out of money and then they're like, how do I bounce back from this point? And this helps you bounce back, right? 2 credits every turn means that even if you have 0 credits, you can res a Regolith mining license using this. It means that also you can res it on the runner's turn to res your Regolith, and then you get those credits back on the next turn to res something. If you end up emptying, whatever it is that you use, or you even have them until the next turn to res the ice, they're protecting it, right? So like, I can see this paying out super quickly and just being generally a fun card to add to your like, I don't know, play style. I don't think it beats Tranquility Home Grid and Hasbiroid, but Hasbiroid already has its own kind of like economy asset. So
better than Trank Grid. I agree.
I think it was really well said. I think this is going to be a great econ smoother for a lot of decks that are jamming in the remote. I think it's going to let Tatu Bola make an obscene amount of money for the corporation.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably much needed when we're losing Rashida, especially when games felt like if you didn't get to fire Rashida, then your econ was just kind of stuck for a long time in the game. I think Makoto will like you said, give you a lot of options to kind of bounce back or smooth things over.
I could see Anthill becoming the new Rashida, to be honest. Like,
It's a big ask, though. Unless you're Wayland, in which case it's obviously perfect.
it's kind of a big ask, but also like it's a good card. But yeah, I'm excited to see this card in decks.
Oh, I guess also I didn't think about it, but you can, if your first anthill pops, it can then go get this to put your next anthill on it, which could be fun.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh, Jeff, get out of my NRDB account. You need to stay out, please.
I love the art on this too. I think the art is super pretty.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's
I want full arts. I want playmats of that. Just it's a really nice cityscape.
yeah. All right. I was corrected by the chat. There is one other card we're going to talk about. Well, I think this one.
Flashwater.
Yeah, this is a pretty utility card. So, but yeah, this is a 2-cost 0-strength code gate. When you res this ice, when it's neutral, no influence. When you res this ice during a run against the server, purge virus counters, and then 1 subroutine, end the run.
Thank goodness this isn't legal at the same time as Cyberdeck's Sandbox. Could you imagine resing this thing at +2, +4 if it's off of Makoto Langan grid?
I mean, Mavirus also like like I feel like Mavirus is why that got banned, but
There's a lot of reasons why that got banned.
yeah, that's true. But I think it's nice, but also as soon as I saw it, I thought, well, if you res it, Ari can still hit you with a Physarum, and you're just like, okay, cool.
Yeah, this isn't Ari tech, unfortunately.
Yeah, it doesn't really.
This is
help
mulch
them
tech.
out.
This is mulch tech. This just puts Audrey in a dumpster. This puts Botulus in a dumpster. This is gonna be the one trick that mulch
But
tech.
it doesn't counter Botulus, right? Like Botulus still ticks up. It doesn't trash it. So
Well, it purges on res, so like if the Botulus is on this or on a ice that's deeper than this, there goes your Botulus counters.
yeah, exactly. But they can still tick up over more turns.
Oh,
So,
sure, yeah. But
Yeah.
it's like that run is out the window, and
Yeah,
probably
it's-
any
it's
runs for the
only
remainder of
that.
your turn.
Yeah,
Yeah, like turn
Yeah.
one
it's a
going
temporary
like,
solution to
yeah,
viruses.
going like turn 1 fly swatter anthill, like that actually is going to be pretty safe against most anarchlists now because Botulus won't get them in that, which is like a big change for kind of an ice setup.
I
Yeah.
think if you're not an if you're not a deck that's installing naked assets, like this is basically a lot of the time this is going to be time walking your mulch opponent.
Yeah.
This is basically
Yeah.
just going to say, yeah, you just lose your entire turn, and unless there's a fast way to get virus counters, or you have another way of getting an access to start building your Audrey or building your Leech, then this is big game if mulch decks continue to be prevalent.
I
Also-
think with tricks like Simulchip, you still have a lot of counterplay against this. Mulch has a lot of fun tricks that I don't think this is actually going to like completely keep them out of the meta. But if you play it right or time it right, I think it can like win you a game. But I think once again, like this has been a hallmark for me of this set is that like if you use the tools in the right way or you like choose them at the right moment, then it can really help you win a game, but it's
Yeah.
not going to like knock whole playstyles out of the meta or like stop Conduit from being a threat, but it'll buy you a turn or
Yeah,
it can
I do
come in at
think-
the right moment.
This will be great in an innermost position, right? Because you can then choose if you want to res it at right before the run is successful, every time. So if you're running this in like a big deck and you throw it in the innermost position of R&D and you get like Conduit, you could save it for like 1 or maybe even 2 conduits to try and get the most value out of it, right? So there's a lot of like interesting ways to use it. I don't know how good it's going to be, and I also think Mavirus is generally going to be better for R&D protection. This might be good for like remotes and stuff. I can see it being like a one of in decks that just want some ice, maybe like NBN that doesn't really get a lot of amazing and the run ice to start out with. But yeah, I think this card will be a card.
I think this is a great Stegadon target too.
Yeah, that's getting shot.
I mean,
out in
this is
chat as well.
I mean, it's a thing you want to res and de-res over and over again. Like, of course, this is a good Stegadon target. Yeah, but yeah, I don't think this is going to be a 3 of unless like mulch is just the the best deck in the meta. But yeah, this will be a cute little one of for decks that just want a 2-cost ice that purges virus counters, and like with that extra text being relevant. Some of the
and
time.
if you don't want to, like, if you can't afford to spend influence on a virus, like this won't, you won't be happy to slot this, but you can slot this and it will sometimes do things for you,
Yeah.
which I think is good. I do
Oh, I
want
wish it
to
had the AP subtype.
I do
Thunderbolt.
want to shout out Jamie in the chat saying this should also have been able to trash Mayfly and just called it out specifically in the text.
Flavor fail.
Yeah, a flavor
Completely
failure,
agree.
but yeah, but yeah, I think that is it. So we will wrap up the show there. I guess, you know, we've just talked about a bunch of cards, and like, you know, maybe we'll go down the line starting with Cat, then Crank, then Funky Man. Just what you're most excited about, either stuff that we've seen so far, stuff you're waiting to see. Just kind of love to hear what you're excited about in this spoiler season. So, Kat, you're up first.
All right. I mean, obviously the identities are what everybody wants to see the most. I think I'm really interested in Anarch identity. I don't like playing Hoshiko, even though she's amazing. So I'm interested to see if I'll have an Issa replacement to be able to play Anarch. I also am interested in the criminal ID because it was described as organized crime, and a mob boss criminal sounds so fun. And then I'm also interested in the NBN ID because that could be like, oh, are we getting one ID per faction or two? I'm not entirely sure. I'm assuming just one, but
I don't know if it's been announced either direction.
Yeah, there's been no announcement about the number of IDs in the product.
okay, because I know System Update had 2 per faction.
It had
I
2
don't
per
know
runner
if we're that
faction
lucky.
and then 1 corp.
Yeah, 1 per core faction. Yeah, I think it's probably gonna end up being just 1 per faction, but I could be totally wrong. But yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see new playstyles that come with all my favorite factions. That's basically it.
Cranked. What's getting you excited here?
Interested to see if there is an attempt for at kind of recapturing the old magic of some of the very old core set cards that us dinosaurs love. So, like, what is going to be the new take on something like an Aesop's Pawn Shop, which is just an effect that's been around for so long that we take for granted? Is there going to be any sort of replacement for something like an inside job? I would have said the same thing about something like biotic labor, but obviously we've seen nano management, so we know that one's just coming back wholesale. So I'm interested to see, like, if there's any attempt to sort of fill this, like, kind of fill the shoes of some of the not necessarily staple, but just iconic cards that are going to be leaving us. And I'm also just interested to see if Ob is going to remain dominant, not necessarily in the metagame, but just in my heart.
Yeah. Well, nothing can take it out of my heart, even if the meta will take it away from me. And Dan, what are you excited about to see or have seen?
I'm really excited to see what's going to end up happening with HB, specifically on the ID side. I feel like there's I don't know. With the HB cards that I've seen so far, I'm already pretty excited in trying to brew decks for what's to come. So I'm pretty stoked there. But overall, I'm actually just really excited for more narrative pieces. I think that's one of my favorite things of spoiler season is when we get a couple of like short stories or windows into the world from the really talented folks on the narrative side. And I just love getting to engage with that. So hopefully we're going to get a couple more of those.
Cool. Great. Well, thank you all for coming on. It's been this hour and a bit has flown by. And thank you everyone in the chat for coming out, and we'll be back tomorrow for the first day of spoiler season proper.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks.